Nestled along the Atlantic Ocean in Lagos, Nigeria, there's a unique neighborhood that stands out for its unconventional way of life. What was once a tiny fishing village has transformed into Makoko, the largest floating slum, often referred to as the Venice of Africa. Houses in Makoko stand on stilt frames, making them highly vulnerable to storms and flooding. Poverty and mortality rates are alarmingly high. Since the government doesn't officially recognize the settlement, residents don't have access to support, proper education, or medical care. Also, locals face challenges like no access to drinking water and inadequate sewerage problems, resulting in waste being dumped directly into the ocean. Fortunately, various foundations are working hard to improve the lives of Makoko's residents, so let's hope that their fight for survival will turn into a chance for a better life. After taking a walk around here, you'll probably stop complaining about your tiny backyard. Say hello to Yanjin, officially the narrowest city worldwide. Hugged by the Tibetan foothills, it extends on both riverbanks. The view from the outside is something else. It feels like you've stepped into a parallel universe, doesn't it? The maximum width of the city is 1,300 feet, and the minimum width is only 100 feet. To put that in perspective, that's like 2 basketball courts. How do almost 500,000 inhabitants live on such a tiny piece of land? It's simple. Although Yanjin is narrow, it's a very long city. It stretches from north to south for 37 miles. Manila, the bustling capital of the Philippines, has its share of hidden stories beneath the surface. Deep within the heart of the city, under the bridge, lies a cluster of slums where people live despite seemingly impossible living conditions. It's difficult to imagine what life is like there, but the video paints a vivid picture. A community enduring years under the bridge, carving out a life and raising families despite the odds. The constant hum of traffic, clattering of metal structures, and unforgiving heat add to the struggle, offering a glimpse into the hardships faced by the locals. Nestled high in the Peruvian Andes, there's a unique spot that's exceptional in an unfortunate way: La Rinconada. This town sits at an altitude of over 16,000 feet, making it the highest settlement on the planet. Living up here comes with its challenges. Folks face a constant lack of oxygen all year round. It's not just that, there's a real alcohol problem. Crime is through the roof, and poverty rates are off the charts. Still, the population is about 30,000 and steadily increasing. Wondering why people keep living in these conditions? Well, it's simple. Gold mines. Families desperate for a fortune go here, only to run into tough policies from local companies and downright brutal working conditions for the workers. Imagine starting your day with the breathtaking view of this incredibly beautiful landscape outside your window. That's the daily experience for the folks living in the unique world's loneliest house. Perched over 6,500 feet in the Italian mountains. Only the bravest adventurers can get there, either by a cable car or a winding path that's as steep as it gets. Although this hunting lodge would give the Italian house a run for its money, picture this. It's the only dwelling on a beautiful deserted island, with just a workshop and a lonely old hut nearby. It's the perfect spot for introverts, and they're probably already dreaming about moving in, or maybe even started packing. You've probably heard the phrase, feeling like you're at the end of the world, right? Well, now you can put a pin on the map. Meet Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, the most far-out spot on Earth. No, literally. The closest town is almost 2,000 miles away, with no airport and just 235 people living there. Interestingly, all of them share one of 6 common last names, meaning most locals are actually related. Getting to the Tristan da Cunha archipelago, where the town is located, requires a 15-day voyage through a raging sea. If you're lucky, you can make the trip in just 6 days by catching the only speedy ship available. Otherwise, you might find yourself waiting a year for the next one. Known as the largest city on water in West Africa, Ganvi was built on Lake Nokue back in the 18th century and is still growing, now home to around 40,000 people. Unlike the African Venice, Ganvi boasts 2 water pumps accessible by canoe for drinking water, and the lake is great for fishing, making life more enjoyable. The primary issue for the town is power. Most homes lack electricity, except for those lucky enough to afford a small generator or solar panels. Setenil de las Bodegas might look like your typical Spanish white village from a distance, but take a closer look. Unlike the villages on steep hillsides, the houses here are actually built into the cliffs, almost like they're protected by massive basalt overhangs. These canopies form natural roofs for homes, shielding residents from heat, winds, and rain. The place is genuinely one of a kind, but admit it, it looks like one of those stone blocks could tumble down at any second. Still, Setenil de las Bodegas has a history spanning over 8 centuries, and not a single town structure has crumbled during that time. The Xuankong Temple complex in China is truly something else, and here's why. All the buildings are carved right into the rock, soaring more than 230 feet above the ground. Built way back in the 5th century AD, this complex is truly astounding. Even after 1,500 years, monks still call this place home. However, their sense of security is shaky, as in 2010, Xuankong Temple earned the title of one of the world's riskiest buildings. Despite this, hordes of believers visit daily because it's the only temple that brings together Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. In the heart of the vast southwestern Peruvian desert, there lies Huacachina, a village that has grown around a green oasis hidden among the sand dunes. This place feels like a fairy tale, with its magical appearance and a rich tapestry of myths surrounding its origin. Despite its small population of around 100 residents, Huacachina draws tens of thousands of visitors each year. Up on the world's largest high-altitude Lake Titicaca, you'll stumble upon a one-of-a-kind village, the Uros Floating Islands. The village is essentially 100 artificial platforms, and this is the place the Andean indigenous people have called home for centuries. These locals craft these platforms by hand using layers of reeds and set them afloat by sticking eucalyptus stakes tied to ropes into the lake's bottom. Perched almost 13,000 feet above sea level, the floating islands may appear isolated, but technology has made its way here too. Residents enjoy everyday amenities like small appliances and a medical center with a school on separate platforms. We're now in Greece, close to the town of Kalambaka. Nestled at an elevation ranging from 1,300 to 2,000 feet, you'll find a breathtaking and incredibly unique spot known as the Meteora Monasteries Complex. In the 10th century, the first hermits scaled these formidable peaks, building 24 monasteries over the next centuries. Now, only 6 of them are active, with most reduced to picturesque ruins. The Holy Trinity Monastery, home to just one monk, hosts rituals, patrols the area, and welcomes visitors. Notably, this monastery was featured in the James Bond movie For Your Eyes Only, and Linkin Park named their album in honor of these ancient monastic sites. Who would have thought that this California house stands out not just for its cool futuristic vibe, but because it's literally perched on an old volcano? Yep, where the building now sits, there used to be flowing lava. And today, you can chill on the observation deck and look at the sand dunes. Ever wondered how it feels to be part of a spaceship crew that accidentally touched down on a volcano? Back in our teenage days, lots of us enjoyed checking out the subways just for the thrill of it. Yet, for the 1,500 folks living in the underground tunnels of Las Vegas, it's more than just a hobby. It's their everyday reality. It's like this. Right under the heart of the entertainment biz, there's this crazy maze of a place filled with people who've hit hard times. Some lost their jobs during the pandemic, some got out of jail with no clue where to go, and others can't even recall how they ended up on the streets. They're bunking with rats, praying a sudden rainstorm won't drown their makeshift homes. A really dystopian picture beneath a city that never sleeps. Located in the Iraqi province of Duhok, Amedi is a captivating ancient city sitting at 4,600 feet. Its stunning architecture dates back to a time well before our era, when the region was a melting pot of different peoples and civilizations. Notably, Amedi's uniqueness has earned it a place on UNESCO's Cultural Heritage List, and it currently has a population of around 11,000 residents. Looking for a place to live in northern Portugal? Well, brace yourself for a hide-and-seek game with this house. It's practically camouflaged among the rocks. Located between 4 giant boulders, it's got a unique vibe inside, with both typical and unusual furniture. Picture this, a concrete sofa weighing a whopping 7,700 pounds. Think back to the time you felt freezing cold. It'd probably seem like a Miami vacation compared to our trip to Oymyakon, officially the coldest place on the planet. The average temperature in January around here hits a bone-chilling minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit, with the all-time low hitting minus 96 degrees Fahrenheit. That's nearly 3 times colder than your standard freezer. No wonder less than 500 people live in this village. What's ironic is that Oymyakon supposedly means unfreezing water, but even strong spirits turn into a popsicle here. Talk about rough living conditions. For the past 22 years, Miguel, Maria, and their dog have been living underground in Colombia, creating a home in what might sound like a post-apocalyptic movie setting. Their home, however, is no spacious bunker. It's a room smaller than a bathroom, measuring 4.5 feet high and 10 feet wide. One can't even stand straight here. Yet, despite the tight space, they've managed to set up a bed, stove, fan, and even a TV. To top it off, their well-kept lawn might make many people jealous. In the California desert, there's this spot called Slab City, known among locals as the last free place on Earth. It's not exactly a Mad Max-style post-apocalyptic settlement, it's still part of the state and has some police oversight, albeit a bit more laid back, since you've got to make your way here first. During World War II, this spot was a Marine Corps training camp, but in 1956 the military packed up and left, leaving only concrete slabs behind. Eventually, a bunch of hopeless romantics rolled in, looking for love and freedom. And that's how Slab City got its start. I bet many of us have daydreamed about having a cozy house by a quiet river, but what if the house was right in the middle of the river? like this weird structure in Serbia, a hut on a cliff in the middle of the water. A bunch of swimmers put it together back in the late 60s as a kind of makeshift hideaway. Since then, the river has washed it away 7 times, but they keep rebuilding it, making it stronger each time. From high up, this place gives off such a fantastical vibe that you could easily picture it as a setting from a fantasy movie. Welcome to Larong Gar, a colossal city nestled in the heights of eastern Tibet, standing at 13,000 feet high. Also dubbed the Five Science Buddhist Academy, this sprawling complex, established in 1980, has burgeoned into the world's largest academy of Buddhism. Imagine around 10,000 monks, nuns, and novices dwelling in these compact houses, stacked almost like a game of Jenga. They climb the slopes daily for studies, dive into spiritual practices, and get back to their cozy abodes as dusk settles. Just picture them making it all the way up. Look at this house. Is there anything remarkable about it? Well, let's say the fact that it's not just a house, but an entire city under one roof, with its own infrastructure and everything you need to live. It's located in Alaska in the tiny town of Whittier, with a population of less than 300 people, and all of them live in this 14-story complex. Originally serving as military barracks, the building now houses a variety of amenities, including a gym, supermarket, hotel, post office, city hall, and even a church. So, residents in Whittier don't really need to venture outside, except of course for work. Interestingly, there's a separate tunnel exclusively for commuting, operational from 7 AM to 10 PM, with the traffic direction changing every half an hour. Up in the mountains of Brazil, there's this area they call a favela, which basically means a slum. The houses here are literally stacked on top of each other, and some are built with a rock serving as one of the walls. In Rio de Janeiro, at the base of Dois Irmãos, lies Vidigal, a favela with a breathtaking view of the ocean. Once infamous for being the most dangerous favela of them all, this neighborhood still echoes with daily gunfire and cries, a reminder of its tumultuous past. Can you take a wild guess about how many people call this place home? I'll give you a hint. It's slightly less than the population of Monaco, between 20 and 30,000 residents. I think you have to wait at least 4 hours for the elevator. Terry Gonzalez, a homeless man, owns this motorhome that seems like it came straight from a Burning Man festival. In a heartbreaking twist of fate, Terry lost everything except his creativity, skills, and an old car. Using his ingenuity, he built a cabin on top of the car to make a home for himself and his cherished pets. According to Terry, all he wanted was a cozy space for them to live in. We're looking at one of the most famous bridges in the world, and it's also Florence's oldest, the Ponte Vecchio. It got wiped out by a flood in the beginning of the last millennium, but they fixed it up in 1345, and it stayed true to its original design till now. This place didn't really have houses, at least not in the usual sense of the word, but nowadays the bridge is a favourite spot for both locals and tourists, thanks to its cool mix of jewelry shops and workshops. Ponte Vecchio even stars in stories by Dan Brown and Alexander Dumas, plus it's a setting for several missions in the Assassin's Creed video game.